Well, it's Wednesday, and you know what time it is. Yes, Athletes Forum Podcast, formerly The Sideline. But we are back with College Sports Crew, here to talk some ball, here to talk some college game, the chaos, decisions that are being made, here to break it all down. I'm your host, Jamal Clay. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're not subscribed to the channel, just click that subscribe button real quick through the handles below. Drop a comment. More importantly, let's talk it out. This is an interactive show, and I kind of like to chat with you guys and kind of see how this goes. So, as we check it out on the board, as we got here, couple topics we'll dive into today. Dante finally makes a decision. Was it the right one? Right, the portal's cooking. Right, the portal's cooking. There's one big fish that's out there that could be, the pretty girl at the dance when it's all said and done, as we are heading down to the wire when it comes to portal season, right? And last but not least, since this is going to be the last episode until the national championship, we'll talk about the Miami, Indiana national championship. We will make a pick on the national championship, all right? So drop a comment, let me know what you guys think, all right? Let's get right into it, and let's kind of talk about it right off the bat. Dante Moore makes a decision, right? Dante Moore makes a decision, and he decides to stay, right? The potential number 2 pick in the NFL draft, right, at least according to most scouts, decides to stay at Oregon and comes back to Oregon for one more year, right? Over 3,500 passing yards last season, 30 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, a 78% QBRs, returning back to Oregon. Not only is he returning back to Oregon, 4 starting defensive linemen are returning back, right? Kane Sadiq, the tight end, he is going to the NFL draft. But needless to say, Oregon is reloading. And you can even make an argument that Oregon wasn't even supposed to be as good as they were this year, because this was supposed to be the rebuild year. Next year is the reloading year. Not to make excuses, because they still got, the ass whip versus Indiana, but this is a huge grab for Oregon. And really, is this potentially going to be that one step closer to what they're trying to accomplish? Obviously, a couple years ago, lost in the quarterfinals. This year, lost in the semifinals. Now is next year natty, right? Now is next year the natty. We will see how that all pans out. But Dante Moore, again, starting quarterback. He's only a sophomore, right? Only 20 years old, right? Returning back to Oregon, right? Phil Knight wasn't letting this one go, right? He was like, I'll pay you whatever your rookie potential earnings would have been, right? So now Oregon looks like has kind of started a trend, right? Oregon has kind of started a trend when it comes to these quarterbacks. You saw what they did last year with Dante transferring to Oregon, even though they had Dylan Gabriel, right? He was the backup. He got the year experience. We saw how this panned out. Now they got Dylan Raiola, who allegedly was going to Oregon with the intentions to, if Dante was coming back, that he was going to sit. He was well aware of that. And that was the plan really set in place. So they're kind of starting a trend with getting these veteran quarterbacks reloading at the quarterback position, possibly having them sit for a year, right? Really get the offense under the belt, really understand the culture of what Dan Lanning's trying to do at Oregon. And then when they're ready, all right, full go ahead when it's their turn, right? Now, was it the right move? I'm going to say it was the right move, right? Obviously, from a money perspective, Phil Knight's could pay you whatever your NFL contract's going to be. So money, you could kind of take that, off the table, so to say, because Oregon – the pockets ain't short in Oregon, right? Let's just leave it at that. But now he could come back. He get another year of experience. He can even take out an insurance policy, right? He can even take out an insurance policy just in case if anything happens, and really set himself up for what, long-term money-wise, what could have and what still can be for him, right? Now, again, this is a trend that is starting at Oregon with them stacking up these veteran quarterbacks, right? And it doesn't always have to be about the money. Maybe it's the mission, all right? Maybe it's the mission of coming to win the Natty. Maybe Michigan started a trend a couple years ago with everyone coming back. We saw it last year, Ohio State, or 2 years ago, last year, Ohio State, everyone coming back. Penn State tried to do that this year, failed miserably, right? But you can see, with everyone starting to return to Oregon, what the mission is going to be with with a veteran team coming back to play to accomplish the mission, right? Not to mention, you got to be mature enough to make a decision like that, right? You got to be mature enough to understand, listen, I may not be ready for the NFL game, right? And I may need one more belt or one more year under my belt, regardless if my offensive coordinator is going to a different school, right? Maybe it's an opportunity to redefine my game, and maybe setting myself up long term for when I get to the league, right? So, not to mention, when you look at the two picks at the top, what have the Raiders and the Jets done with rookie quarterbacks, with young quarterbacks, with developing these quarterbacks, right? When you think of the Raiders, the only really quarterback that comes to mind is Derek Carr, and he was a second-round pick. Outside of that, they don't really have a history of developing rookie quarterbacks. And honestly, their last time they had the number one pick, we all know who that was, right? Jamarcus Russell, right? We saw how that panned out. So under Tom Brady, I'm going to assume they're going to do a better job at going through the vetting process of make sure they're getting the right guy. But with Dante coming back, it really makes the decision that much clearer, right? Fernando Mendoza, I don't think they're questioning him from the neck up, right? It's really going to be his ability. Is he athletic enough? Is he capable enough? Does he have a strong enough arm to play at the next level? Obviously, a lot of people think he does, right? But Tom Brady's going to be heavily involved in this process. But when you think about the Jets, I mean, you go back to Sam Darnold, Christian Hackenberg, Zach Wilson, right? Geno Smith, Mark Sanchez. But Mark Sanchez was the most successful one out of all of them, right? The New York Jets have not done a great job at developing quarterbacks. So if you're a quarterback, why would you even want to put yourself in that situation? Granted, anything can happen in the NFL draft, right? Anything can happen. People move up and down all the time. But they're in the market for a quarterback, right? You're projected top 3 at your position, right? Listen, everything's on the table. Dante Moore, whether he made that decision based on that or not, right? He's going back to school, right? And now the Jets and the Raiders are going to have to find another route to go when it comes to, the future at the quarterback position. But now that brings me into next year, next college football season and what that looks like, right? And just think about some of not just the quarterback names, but the draft class we're going to get next year, right? When you think about quarterbacks, you think about, I'm going to read your list of names: Lenora Sellers, Dante Moore, DJ Lagway, if he turns things around, Arch Manning, Josh Hoover, Indiana, Julian Sayin, Ohio State, John Mateer, Oklahoma, Marcel Reed, Nico Iamaleava. That's just the quarterbacks. And I didn't even name close to, whoever could be the potential, whoever could be the next Fernando Mendoza, whoever that is, wherever they are, right? Just the quarterbacks alone next year. And then you look at the other skill positions. I got Dylan Stewart, defensive end, USC. I got Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver, Ohio State. I got Cam Coleman, wide receiver, Texas. I got Jordan Seaton, offensive tackle, wherever he goes. I got Jaden Ball, running back, University of Florida. All right, Colin Simmons, defensive end, University of Texas. I got who else is on this list? Nick Nash, receiver, now at Indiana. Sammy Brown, linebacker, Clemson. KJ Bolden, Chris, I know you gotta like that one. KJ Bolden, safety at Georgia. Ryan Wingo, wide receiver, Texas. Zachariah Branch, Georgia. Mario Craver, wide receiver, Texas A&M. Justice Hayes, running back, Georgia Tech. Next year is fucking loaded. Fucking loaded with talent, right? Loaded. And I'm excited to see how this pans out can this group of talent that could potentially be one of the top draft classes we've ever seen, can they really perform? Because remember, going into this year, it was about the quarterbacks, right? Gary Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, right? Arch Manning, but Arch ended up panning out towards the end of the season. No one really panned out from this year. We got a bunch of, no names that came out the mud and really made a name for themselves. Fernando Mendoza, Trinidad Chambers. Again, anything can happen. So we're gonna see if this group of talent, right? If this group of talent can really make a name for themselves next year, right? Now, let's pay some bills real quick. Let's talk about College Sports Crew, all right? You see the tags below, right? Follow us on X at College Crew. Follow us on YouTube, College Sports Crew. Follow us on TikTok at College Sports Crew, where we do lives, right? We're almost at 100 subscribers on YouTube, right? So join the crew, right? As we're here Monday through Friday. Monday, we got Veterans Sports Voice with Coach Pops. We got We Talk Ball, or we got Sweet Tea in the SEC on Tuesdays. We got Athletes Forum podcast on Wednesdays. We got We Talk Ball Thursdays, and we got some live reactions coming. We're going to have a baseball show. We're going to dive into some basketball. I know I will, some college basketball and some draft talk, once college football is over, because that's really ruling the world right now. So do us a favor, like, subscribe. More importantly, drop a comment. Let's talk it out. All right. Next, the portal is fucking nuts. The portal is out of control right now, right? And not just out of control, but these are like top names that are going crazy. And all this is reported by On3, so they get all the credit. But just listen to some of these names. Justice Hayes, running back, going from Michigan to Georgia Tech, right? Malik Harford, safety, going from Ohio State to UCLA, right? Obviously, Dante Moore, wide receiver from Texas, going to Colorado. Cade Porch, safety from Minnesota, going to Oregon. The rich get richer. Sam Levitt finally makes the commitment, goes to LSU. LSU almost fucked that up. Who else we got? We got Jaquez Carter going from Ohio State to Miami, right? Miami's getting a nice guy up front, right, to continue to build that online and work with Jason Taylor. Quay Russo and James Smith leaving Alabama. They're getting killed on the offensive defensive line. He's going to Ohio State, right? Noah Rogers, former Ohio State, goes to the North Carolina State. Now he's transferring to Alabama. I've already talked about Cam Coleman, the number one receiver in the portal, going to Texas to play with Ryan Wingo and Arch Manning. AJ Harris, one of the top cornerbacks in the portal, right, leaves Penn State. It's going to Indiana, right? We got Quincy Porter leaving Ohio State, going to Notre Dame, right? CJ Carr gets another weapon on the outside. Dylan Raiola leaving Nebraska, going to Oregon. Jordan Seaton, who is now the pretty girl at the dance, the number one offensive tackle in the class, future number one first-round pick, leaving Colorado. Where is he going to go? Let's talk about that for a second, because it's not often you see names like these, top names, running back, safeties, receivers, really leaving their school where they made their mark, right, to go to other programs. But that's the day and age we're in when it comes to the transfer portal, right? Jordan Seaton's number one offensive tackle, right? Started as a true freshman, 5-star plus at the IMG Academy. He's in the portal. Some of the names I'm hearing Florida, and as a Gators fan, I hope we can get them, right? I'm hearing Florida. I'm hearing Texas. I'm hearing Oregon. I'm hearing Miami, right? A name you should keep an eye on is Mississippi State for Jordan Seaton, all right? His old offensive line coach, who he has a great relationship with, Phil Loneholt, right? Former offensive tackle for the Minnesota Vikings, former coach at Colorado, now at Mississippi State. Do not rule out Mississippi State when it comes to this decision. I think the pretty signings, right? I'm gonna say he leaned towards maybe a Miami, an Oregon, maybe a Texas. I don't know, right? But do not rule out Mississippi State for Jordan Seaton, right? The number one offensive tackle in the portal, and be curious to see where he ends up, right? But the portal's fucking crazy right now, right? College football is nuts, right? College football, this free agency, when it comes to college football, is really almost better, right, than the NFL. Because, listen, when you get to the NFL, it becomes more about the money. It becomes more about making business decisions. Now, granted, these are all business decisions, but college football is about hope, right? If you would have told me Indiana for over semi-odd years, right, who's never had a 10-win season, who's had a 46-win percentage over those years, all of a sudden gets a coach from JMU. He brings 14 JMU guys to his program. 7 are currently still there. In the past 2 seasons, they had a 92 per win percentage, right? That's the hope I'm talking about. So the portal has installed hope in regards to these programs and really created parity. Just look at our playoffs. We're getting a 10 seed, despite who the name is. We're getting a 10 seed, right, versus a 1 seed in Indiana, right? And then you start looking at the names that are in. Regardless of what you think about, the G5s with JMU and Tulane. But we've had Ole Miss. We saw the run they went on. We saw the fight that they put up. We saw the games that they played, right? And how they played those games, right? Georgia get knocked out, right? Miami, Tennessee goes to A&M, right? One of the top 3-5 stadiums in all of college football, over 100,000 plus, right? Atmosphere is nuts. Go there and get a win, right? Indiana, we already talked about them, came out of nowhere. Texas Tech, you get some oil money at Texas Tech, you see what they could draw up, right? So the portal has provided hope for a lot of teams, right? It's expanded. Now, I'm not saying like your Rutgers, or I'm not saying like your Wake Forest is. I'm not saying like, your Purdue's, right, are going to be that next Indiana, but why not? But that's what I mean about the portal. So while everyone's going crazy about these kids getting money, portal, this and that, and it's not how it used to be. I get it. Trust me. But there's something to be said about the mystery or the unknown of having a team come out of nowhere and really show that they could ball, i.e. Ole Miss. Really show that they could compete despite what Texas Tech did in the Orange Bowl, right? But if it wasn't for the portal or kids not being able to play right away, we would still see the same old names at the top. And granted, I'm a college football traditionalist. I get it, right? But it's something to be said when I'm getting a Indiana playing in the Natty, who is really the favorite in the game, versus a Miami who hasn't been in the Natty in 23 years, right? So the portal has its good, it has its bad, but I'm telling you, it's fucking crazy. But it's going to provide a lot of craziness when we get to the fall, which is what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, right? Especially in this playoffs. So it's been nuts. It's been nuts. Again, subscribe to the channels below, or subscribe to the X, YouTube, Twitch, right? Or it's not Twitch, TikTok, right? Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Let's talk it out, all right? It's time to get to it, all right? It's time to get to our national championship preview. Again, you won't hear from me, right, from now until next Monday. I will react on Monday. One form or another, one way or another. I will react on Monday. But let's dive into this national championship game. This one could potentially be one for the books, right? The final game of our college football season comes down to one team, as I mentioned, who came from the bottom, came out of nowhere, out of left field, right? One team who came out of left field versus one team who's looking to revitalize their history of success, of swagger, of confidence, right? Indiana's favored by 8.5. If I would have told you that, early in the season, you probably would have unsubscribed to the channel. Indiana's favored by 8.5, over under 47.5. Let's break this game down. Indiana, Fernando Mendoza is an anomaly, because when you think about some of the Heisman Trophy winners and then some of their postseason performances, all right, it hasn't really been stellar. They haven't really stood out since winning the Heisman and giving that speech and going on the Heisman tour. Fernando Mendoza has really been aging like fine wine, right? He wins the Heisman, right? And he plays his best ball in the playoffs, right? This is a guy who had over 3,000 passing yards this season, 41 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, right? Now he's coming back to a place 1 mile from the University of Miami campus. He's a Miami native. He's looking to end his college career He's looking to end his college career really where his football career started, in the 305, right? This is an Indy team who is balanced, who is determined, and who's really looking to make history. Again, 92% win percentage over the last 2 seasons. Offensively, a heavy RPO scheme, and they will make you pay, right? And their receivers are going to have to make you pay in this game. They're going to have to make plays in this game, all right? And they have an experienced offensive line, right? But I hate to tell you, offensively, that's probably the weak part. And don't take it no disrespect in here. I'm not saying those guys are garbage, but I think your receivers are good. Your running backs are good. Obviously, your quarterback's good. So the weakness of that Indiana offense is their offensive line. Defensively, you're not going to see a team this season that's done more simulated pressures and more stunts early on downs, first and second downs, early in the game than Indiana, right? Even missing Stephen Daly, this is a team that plays smart, right? This is a team that is aggressive at the linebacker position. Obviously, their DBs can ball, and they watch film. Just ask Dante Moore about that, right? And listen, their defense has dominated the past 3 games. Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon. Take the brain out of it, right? We're talking about an Ohio State team who was everyone's number one team the whole season. We're talking about a Alabama team who really got hot midway through the season, slowed down, but really started to peak and pick things up. And then we're talking about an Oregon team that could have went to the Natty and they destroyed them in the semis, right? Don't sleep on their defense, right? Now, their defense in the close games throughout the season has been tested. You think about you think about Oregon, that first game. You think about Iowa, right? You think about Penn State, right? And obviously Ohio State 13-10, right? You got to be able to run the ball on their defense. And I don't know what they did, but no one's been able to run the ball the past 3 games. So clearly they're doing something, right? On the other side of that, right? On the other side of that, you got a team from the 305, a team that's been waiting to get to this position for 23 years. 23 years, rich with history. I'm talking about great players all across the board. Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Sean Taylor, Jonathan Vilma, right? Willis McGahee, Andre Johnson, Devin Hester. Listen, I could go on and on, right? But this is a team that's led by one of their own in Mario Cristobal, right? Who has said time and time again, we're not bringing the U back. You're never going to bring back what's been done. They're trying to start something new. But we can't forget about the history. We can't forget about what the U's been, right? And what they meant to college football, right? And now that they're back in this position, it has to put a smile on your face. It has to put a smile on your face. Listen, offensively, Beck played a good game versus Ole Miss. His deep ball sucked, though, right? Beck struggled horrendously throwing the deep ball, right? That has to get fixed. The key to their offense, outside of Mark Fletcher Jr.-ish, offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson, because I believe he has to call a patient game, right, and not an aggressive game. He's got to be willing to stick with what works, because sometimes they'll get into a rhythm or work to get into a rhythm, and then they'll fuck around and call like a flea flicker or a halfback toss or something stupid, and then it's a loss of 5. He has to be patient and stick to the game plan. Not to mention, and it can be done because we saw it could be done. The wide receivers have to play well. Miami can't rely on Carson Beck to win in the game. And I'm not saying that they got to keep the ball away from his hands. He'll make a play when he has to, but you don't want him essentially having to go against this Indiana defense all by himself. That's all I'm saying, right? Now, Miami, for the 3rd straight game, has the advantage on the offensive line. Has the advantage on the offensive line. Not to mention, they also got the advantage on the defensive line. And it needs to be felt in this game, right? It needs to be felt. The defense for Miami has to dominate this game, right? They have to get Indiana off rhythm and behind the sticks early. Because that's the game that's going to keep it close. And if they keep it close, Miami has a chance. If they let Indiana get a lead, it's night-night. It's over, right? Shut down Ocean Ave, shut down Brickell, Miami, South Beach. It's over. It's over if you let Indiana get a 10-point lead at least, a 14-point lead at least, right? Now, the health of Mesidor, and I forgot the other defensive back who got called for that targeting, is going to be a question. Mesidor got a little banged up, targeting on the defensive back. He's out for that first half, all right? So penalties they got to cut down on, and they got to play clean in the secondary, right? Because these receivers can make plays. Mendoza's accuracy is off the charts, right? So that brings it to that defensive front. Bain and Mesidor. That defense led by Bain and Mesidor have to make their money this game. I got 2 first-rounders on the edge. You got to go get the number 1 pick. It's as simple as that. And I think the weakness of that Indiana offensive line is on the right side. Similar to who Miami play. Similar to when Miami played Ohio State. All right? And Corey Heatherman, again, I played football at the University of Maine. He coached football at the University of Maine. So I got maybe a rooting interest in this game. But he's got to draw something up. He's coached under Cignetti at James Madison, right? I know a lot of people may not have known that, but he's familiar with what Cignetti wants to do, which could be an advantage. an advantage. He was the D coordinator before they're D coordinator now, right? So he's gonna have to draw something up. They're gonna have to get pressure with 4 in this game too, right? It's pivotal that the front of the Miami defensive line eats, and they eat on that right side, right? And that's going after right tackle Khalil Benson. It's as simple as that. Khalil's overly aggressive. He could get high sometimes, and I think with speed and twist games, I think you could get to that right side. So how does Indiana block that? I don't know. We'll see how all that pans out, right? We'll see what comes into play there. But Miami has to limit penalties. As I mentioned, they have to get the Mendoza, and they got to keep this game close. They got to keep this game close. You don't want to get into a shootout with Indiana, right? And that brings me to the pick. Who's going to win this game? It's hard. Everything points to Indiana winning this game, right? There's something to me that just wants to go against the grain, all right? Now, I'm not confident Miami's going to win on the money line, so the pick is going to be Miami plus the 8.5. I'll even take the under 47.5 because I think it's going to be a close game, and I think this is going to be similar to the close games Indiana played earlier in the season, like when you think Penn State, you think Iowa, right? You think Ohio State. I think it's going to be a game similar to that, all right? All those games were under 47.5. I think Miami keeps it close, and if they keep it close, I think they win. All right. So I'm picking Miami with the points. Take it for what it's worth, right? Indiana fans, take it for what it's worth. Miami fans, take it for what it's worth. Indiana, Miami National Championship, Miami plus 8.5, right? Athlete Forum Podcast. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe to the channel, right? College Sports Crew. All the handles are there below for you to check it out. Subscribe to Athletes Forum Podcast, right? We're bringing you content daily. Right? This is the Athletes Forum Podcast. Take care.